2008, so I guess that's 3 years now. And it's absolutely clear to me that this industry represents the biggest environmental threat to Pennsylvania in my lifetime. Let me begin by briefly discussing the things that I'm not going to talk about tonight. I'm not going to talk about forest fragmentation caused by the endless proliferation of well pads and pipelines. I'm not going to discuss air pollution from compressors that run 24 hours a day. I'm not going to talk about the constant cycle of road repair and road degradation. And I'm not even going to talk about the legislative and judicial corruption caused by massive campaign contributions and sweetheart leases. These may seem like serious problems, but they're actually relatively minor compared to the endless series of spills and accidents that spew chemicals into our streams and forests. Let me give you just a few examples. On March 15, 2010, a foamy substance was detected running into Pine Creek, a first-rate trout stream, an excellent kayaking route, and the site of a popular rails-to-trails biking and hiking path. The Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection determined that the substance was air foam HD, a chemical used in the drilling process. The operators of the drilling site, run by Pennsylvania General Energy, explained that they did not anticipate heavy rains in March in Pennsylvania. On June 3, 2010, a gas well that was being fracked by EOG Resources in Clearfield County experienced a blowout and raged out of control for 16 hours, shooting fracking fluid and gas 75 feet into the air. EOG, whose spokesperson insisted that protecting the environment is of, quote, utmost importance to the company, waited 5 hours before contacting DEP. On August 17, 2010, Atlas Resources allowed used fracking fluid to overflow a wastewater pit and to contaminate a tributary of Dunkel Run, a high-quality watershed in Washington County. Atlas failed to report that spill to DEP. On November 22, 2010, DEP announced that it was investigating a large spill of hydraulic fracking fluid at a site run by XTO Energy. The spill has been estimated to be 4,275 gallons, which contaminated an unnamed tributary of Sugar Run, a spring, and 2 private wells. A DEP investigator discovered an open valve that was discharging fluid from an unattended tank. On April 19, 2011, 7 families were evacuated from their homes after a Bradford County well that was being fracked by Chesapeake Energy blew out and spilled thousands of gallons of flowback fluid into a tributary of Tawanda Creek, which runs into the Susquehanna River, which runs into the Chesapeake Bay. The DEP confirmed that amphibians and a farm pond died as a result of the spill, which took 12 hours to contain. And finally, on July 29th, August 22nd, and August 10th, 3 times in 2 weeks, Laser Northeast Gathering Company spilled a cumulative 1,500 gallons of drilling mud into Laurel Lake Creek, an exceptional quality stream in Susquehanna County. These incidents have become commonplace in Pennsylvania. Last year, the DEP made their records of Marcellus violations available to the general public. These reports make interesting, if disturbing reading, as they reveal the gas industry's attitude towards environmental regulation. A fairly typical company is Chief Oil and Gas. Some are better, some are worse. Chief's website promises that they are, quote, proud of our environmental record as well as the way in which we've efficiently and responsibly protected water and natural resources. In 2010, Chief received 174 violations. Many of the violations are minor, failure to post permits, things of that nature. However, some of those violations are much more troubling. On January 5th, Chief was cited for allowing frac fluid, antifreeze, hydraulic oil, and diesel fuel to spill into the ground at a site in Lycoming County. They were also cited for not reporting this incident. On May 3rd, the DEP cited one of Chief's Bradford County sites for ongoing flowback leaks, for spilling drilling cuttings in the ground, and for 7 petroleum releases. These incidents were not reported to the DEP. On May 27th, the DEP agent at the Bradford County site noticed a flowback spill in a large swath of dead vegetation that extended from the well site. The spill may have entered a nearby stream. There were also spills of diesel fuel, cuttings, brine, and an unknown gel. Chief was cited for not notifying DEP. On June 10th, the DEP noticed an off-site discharge at a Somerset County site. Water samples were taken, and the results indicated the discharge contained greater than 1,000 milligrams per liter of hexane extractable material. I'm an English major, so I had to look this up. Hexane is a hydrocarbon that's used as a solvent. Long-term exposure causes a failure of the peripheral nervous system. The operator admitted that 3 days earlier they had spilled 30 gallons of oil-based mud, and once again they did not contact DEP. I could continue and list more incidents of torn containment liners, discharges of pollution into streams, and failure to contain drill cutting, but I think you get the picture. Like most of the drillers in Pennsylvania, Chief frequently violates the rules designed to protect the environment, and then just as frequently fails to mention their accidents to the DEP until they're caught. By the way, for all these violations, Chief was fined a total of $20,000 in 2010. That was to really set them back. But perhaps Chief is one of those rogue operators we hear so much about, and we should instead look at one of the responsible drillers. Anadarko Petroleum has become the poster child of those who want to believe that hydrofracking can be done in a safe and responsible manner. But the DEP's list of violations suggests that Anadarko has had problems following the rules established to protect us. In 2010, Anadarko was cited for 80 violations. Again, many of these violations were minor, but others were of much more serious nature. The best defense against gas migration, surface migration, is proper cementing of the wellbore casing. In 2010, Anadarko was cited 4 times for inadequate cementing of their casings. In each of these incidents, they were also cited for failure to report the faulty cementing in the proper fashion. Anadarko touts its, quote, closed loop system where no cuttings from a drilling would ever touch the Commonwealth. This is good news since Anadarko seems to have had problems maintaining their containment pits to DEP specifications. In 2010, they were cited 14 times for various infractions concerning these pits: insufficient capacity, holes in the liner subsiding into the pit. The inspectors noted spills of wash water, diesel, oil, grease, and triethylene glycol on the pad or on the ground surrounding the pad. On at least 3 occasions, substantial amounts of chemicals touched the Commonwealth. On March 26th, Anadarko spilled 12,000 gallons of synthetic-based mud at a drilling site in the Sproul State Forest. On June 15th, they discharged 150 gallons of hydraulic fluid under the ground at a drilling site in Center County. And on December 22nd, at another Center County site, production fluid was released from a line that was left uncapped by a worker for at least 24 hours. Politicians and business leaders who want to tap into the financial bonanza of the Marcellus Shale believe that if all of the gas companies were like Anadarko, we could have the benefits of drilling without any of the problems associated with this industry. But, as these incidents suggest, responsible drilling is a myth. While Anadarko is indeed one of the very best of the gas companies, their activities still represent a serious threat to the people and environment of Pennsylvania. The sad truth is that the best practices of the industry and the most rigorous enforcement of the DEP cannot prevent the human error that's responsible for the incidents cited above. If a frac worker's thinking about his cheating wife back in Texas, you've got a stream wiped out. The gas industry's defense has been that these accidents are exceptional and are part of the inevitable risk of producing clean, homegrown energy. They've used the analogy that cars have accidents and we don't ban driving. But if a branded car had this record of mishaps, I suspect we might see a recall. Furthermore, we don't allow cars on their sidewalks, but we do allow this accident-prone industry to operate in our state forests next to pristine trout streams. And finally, in Pennsylvania, we pull the licenses of chronically bad drivers. Not a single operator has been permanently banned from drilling in Pennsylvania. Allow me to conclude with a summary of the risks of hydrofracking by someone who should know. In May 26, Range Resources Corporation provided the SEC with a prospectus, and I think if you lie to the SEC, you have to go to jail. So they were surprisingly forthright, and they explained to potential investors the risks of hydrofracking. Our business is subject to operating hazards and environmental regulations that could result in substantial losses or liabilities. Oil and natural gas operations are subject to many risks, including well blowouts, craterings, explosions, uncontrollable flows of oil, natural gas, or well fluids, fires, formations with abnormal pressures, pipeline ruptures or spills, pollution, releases of toxic natural gas, and other environmental hazards and risks. Thank you very much.